Scoring in that first 4 minutes, that completely rattled Morocco. Second half, I think Morocco dominated the second half, you know?
Dude, the age profile of Morocco is scrumptious, bro.
They did a great World Cup. Thank you to them for all the great memories. Welcome everyone to another episode of Afro Rooted, and happy holidays. This is a special holiday special one that we got packed with you. I'm Ghazi, and with me and also with me here is Anna and EU. How are you boys doing today? Is enjoying the snow, the cold wind, the gust? How's it going over there?
It's cold as hell. It's absolutely insane. But stay indoors, so it's chill.
Yeah, man. I'm not a big fan of the cold, but something we got to deal with, man.
So, hopefully football is keeping you warm. And let's just get into it. The FIFA World Cup, it's just ended. It's just a week. It's that post-football syndrome. How was it? Just give me a quick brief. Ghana, how was the World Cup for you?
I mean, I thought it was the best World Cup for Africa in general. And it was World Cup in general was, I feel like, the best one I've witnessed in probably my entire life, because I feel like I had everything you needed, man. Like upsets from so-called small teams, and I feel like it just shows you that football is truly a global game, and it shows that like anybody could beat anybody now. It's not this whole European dominance, South American dominance is almost coming to an end, and it's almost like a paradigm shift that we've seen. And for African teams, we all recorded wins, so every African team won, and we had 2 in the round of 16s, and Morocco making history.
How about you? Any memorable moments from any African teams that you remember, besides the obvious ones?
Not necessarily. I mean, I feel like the teams in general exceeded my expectations with the exception of Ghana. I expected Ghana to at least make it through the group, but in general, I think the World Cup was full of memorable moments, but I wasn't surprised by any of them because they performed exactly the way I expected they would. With the exception of Morocco, of course. It would have been nice to see Senegal go a little bit further, but it's a tough draw to play against England in good form, and with Senegal having a bunch of injuries. So, yeah, I think it was memorable from the African teams. I think it's dope because we'll have more spots in the next World Cup. So excited to see teams go even further than the semis next time around. We'll see.
Well, if you're watching and listening, you're probably wondering, or if you probably don't get it by now, we're recapping best moments from African teams at this World Cup. So from storylines of Ghana's great win and comeback win against South Korea, but then falling short of Uruguay, or Senegal coming out of the group, but again coming too short against England. However, the biggest story of them all is Morocco. Again, people have been saying it's the Moroccan miracle, and was it just luck, or was it actually hard work and utilizing resources? And even following the Moroccan team, now we've all been, but even taking a deep dive into the players, the coaching staff, and even the diaspora. Heck, you can speak French, you can understand. So give us a little bit of insight, and let's start off with the coach, with Mr. Walid Regragui. Olivier Giroud's.
I mean, Walid Regragui is a great point to start, and I feel like that was the tipping point for Morocco, right? So, I mean, we see that I've seen a couple. I was really interested about Morocco, especially once they made it to the group stages. I started to dive deeper into the team, and Walid Regragui is it's just his first time coaching the national team, and I think he only has 9 games total now, at this point. And what he started, it's a dream start. Like he could, if we were to script like his start, like I don't think it would be any better. But there's a lot of hard work that went into this Moroccan side. You know, like we obviously we hear a lot of the media saying, "Oh, you know, like a first African team." I mean, we are the first African team, and it's you know, we're all like proud of that. But one thing we should all know that this is not luck or it's not a miracle. You know, it's like these are hardworking athletes that have mastered a style of play, right? And Walid Regragui's genius is not just only tactically, but also a lot of like his old players, or like, you know, he used to play for Morocco as well, and a lot of his people that played under him or people that played with him say that he has a great presence off the pitch. And the first order of business for him when he was appointed as coach or like head coach of Morocco in back in late August, early September, is he literally flew out to go meet with his players, like face to face. You know, like usually you get a call up and that's it, you come to the national team. This guy spent time with his coaching staff, like they were watching a lot of videos, they did a lot of scouting, and then he went. Hakim Ziyech was, I think he wasn't on good terms with the Moroccan Federation, and that's the first thing he did was like he had a face to face with Hakim Ziyech. Mazraoui was also a little bit on the fence, and like he developed that like personal relationship with the players and made all of them buy into their playing style, his playing style. You know, he thought that like there was a certain playing style that would work for Morocco, and he made the big players buy into that format, because we all know that like Hakim Ziyech and like Sofiane Boufal, they're more like, you know, technical players. They're not really your defensive players, but they really bought into his system, and they were, you know, if you notice like Morocco play, like their style of play, when they were defending, it's like you had your wingers kind of like invert, you know, like so they would double team everybody essentially, you know. So it's like if you would never see a 1v1 with Morocco, it was never a 1v1 on the offense for the other team, which was kind of what like set them apart. And they looked also great, moving forward and also finishing. So I think there's a lot of hard work that went into it. I mean, what do you guys think about Regragui's playing style? Like, how did you guys see it?
Now that you say it, touching on like the team chemistry and everything, like I think on the pitch, everyone could see that like the team was fighting for each other. They were like fighting to the death, you know, almost. And they're constantly trying to cover each other, especially having a player like Amrabat, who is like his full focus for the team was just like defensively. That was sick to watch. It was really dope. But even off the pitch, I think one of the most touching moments of the World Cup for me was like after each of these famous victories, the players going to their mothers who were in the crowd, and that embrace of Hakimi with his mom was probably one of my favorite pictures of the World Cup, to be honest with you. So I think those kinds of like subtle touches behind the scenes can play massive impact on the pitch. And I think now that you say like the reintegration of like Hakim Ziyech and Mazraoui back into the team, and then on top of that doing these things like this, like it only goes to show how good a coach he is.
And also like having a Moroccan coach changes, you know, because they had, I think, the Serbian coach before. So maybe not, I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but like maybe he might not relate as much. And another thing also to mention with Regragui is that he was born in France. So he has both, you know, like he's lived in the diaspora, so he could relate to the, you know, to the French players, the French-born players, or like European-born players like Hakim Ziyech. But he also coached Al Wydad previously, and he's coached, so he knows the Moroccan, how local Moroccan talent also, like their playing style and everything. So and don't forget, like he had just won, like 2022 was his year. He had just won the African, what should we call it? The African Champions League and the local and the Moroccan League.
Yeah.
In the same year. And previously to that, like the year before that, he coached a year in Qatar. So he also knows the Qataris. So that's another aspect, right? So he's won the Qatari league with what's the name? Al Dulail or so. I forgot the name.
Al Dulail.
But yeah. So, you know, and I feel like there's a combination of things that like kind of meshed well together, and he kind of found the perfect recipe for World Cup success.
Dude, touching on that, actually, one of the right before the World Cup started, there was an image that came out on Twitter of where each of the players for each country and where each of the players are born, and Morocco was actually the team with the most players not born in Morocco. It was a combination of like France, Belgium. I think I had Holland and a couple of other, like Spain and whatever.
That's incredible because Moroccans are kind of split up all over Europe. Like they're like kind of spread out. They're not just concentrated in one country.
Yeah, and I would imagine it takes a really good manager to take a team like that that's so diverse or with diverse backgrounds to get them synergized and on the same page. So that's sick. And another shout out as well. I think one of the things that made me proud was having both of the African teams that qualified past the group stage, their coaches being African, like from the same country that they're representing. So that's another thing that it was dope. Aliou Cisse and Walid Regragui.
Yep.
That's kind of interesting you say that real quick. Just to jump into you that that was actually one thing I remember a lot of people were talking about. Where here are two teams, they've got these great squads, and they're bringing in managers who are former players, but also they're young and they're kind of hungry, and they know everything from the back of the players to even knowing how to be a player at a World Cup. Do you think I don't want to say could that work for other countries like England or Germany, but is this something that maybe other African nations can do? Maybe even try moving forward?
I think more of the same, to be honest, for me. I think it's really actually it's actually dope to see some of the players, the profile of players that are committing to like Ghana, for example. Players like Iñaki Williams. I know Nketiah got pretty close, but Tariq Lamptey, I know he didn't play a massive role for them, but he is a good player, and I think even the minutes that he got in this World Cup, he looked really good. So seeing more players, I think this is only going to like encourage players who are undecided and young players as well, to connect with their roots and play for the African country, even though they may not have been born there. And I think in the past that we've seen a lot of players decide to represent their non-African countries because they think they'll have better success with those countries. But the more we see African countries, go as far as Morocco did, the better chance we have of maintaining or keeping some of our talent. So dope to see that. I think more African coaches maybe giving them a chance, uplifting our good coaches and players. So
because we do have some great coaches. Because kind of the one question I want to ask one about Moroccan coach Regragui, against Spain and Portugal, it was tactical masterclass. So much to the point where he was being criticized for being too defensive, but they got the job done. What do you think about particularly the Spain game and how they were set up? Was that also a bit of luck, or that like they knew that Spain are just going to pass to death?
To be honest with you, I don't think it was luck at all, because they knew, like, basically, like I told you, it's like they know what they're good at and they stayed in their own lane, right? So it's like, I think what Regragui did was he basically, found what works for the team, which is staying in good shape, like defensively. He said, like, let them have the ball. It's about effectiveness for him, and he was effective while they had the ball. And if you see the game against Spain, I mean, obviously they didn't score within the play. I feel like they had a couple of chances where they could have put it away, and that's where like they were lacking, in terms of like attacking third. I feel like their weak link is basically the striking point. I would say, like, the finishing in the last third. The finishing part was lacking, and that's why they took it to the penalties. But if you saw, like I told you, like they play well disciplined, right? So to it's not. People think, oh yeah, they just defended and won. It's like, to be honest with you, that's the hardest thing to do. I feel like it's easier to get scored on and score more than like not to get scored on at all. If you think about it, because all it takes is for one, not even the whole team, for one of your players to switch off at a key moment, and it's done. So they stayed switched on the whole time, like 120 20 minutes. So like they were well disciplined and they stood their ground. Like they were never out. There was always outnumbering the attack, right? So they forced if you really saw the game, like I told you, like they had the inverted like wingers. Like if you saw Hakim Ziyech and Sofiane Boufal were really deep, and the players making the runs were mostly like the right backs and left backs. So like that's why also like we chose Hakimi in our previous episode as one of the best right backs, is because like they had a lot to do with it, and also the transition from. Another thing they did, it's not just defending, like attacking wise too, like the transition from defense to offense was a key component. If you saw it, like it only took him like one or two, like having Amrabat and as a center defensive mid, like if you saw the passes he makes, like with one pass he's breaking the line between 4 players, 5 players. It's like that's what it takes. It's being effective. It's not carrying the ball around for 20 like minutes or whatever. They just have those effective passes that just he would cut through different lines, and you would also have like the person that receives it, like whether it was, that's one thing. Unai is great also at keeping the ball, and one thing they would do is also like they would also switch the sides. If you see it, like if they're on the right side, they quickly switch to the left. If they're on the left side, they quickly switch to the right. So all of this has been something that they've worked on. It's not something that just they just it's not luck, like yeah. But what they were missing, I feel like, was the finishing, and they learned from their mistake and got it right against Portugal. We talk about the Spain game, but against Portugal, if you really see it, like they quickly switched it to the left side. You had Ait Allah that crossed it, and Nesri happens to be there. Mistake from the Spain keeper, yes, maybe, but that's part of the game. They capitalized on it, So yeah.
And then let's say the last 2 games were, well, let's not count Croatia, but you think there's just too many injuries are happening. By the time it came to France, players, we're seeing all 23 players on the bench were playing at that point. Let me get you. Let me hear what you have to say. Once you got to that game.
I'm not gonna lie. I only watched half of that game. I was disappointed as well with how it turned out. I mean, I feel like the balloon was popped after being beat by France. I think number one was that, as well as number two, I think Morocco performs best against teams that like to control possession. And shout out to Rodri, by the way, who was talking smack after the game after getting beaten. Yeah, shout out Rodri. What's up? Talk to me. But no, honestly, yeah, I think the styles are pretty similar between the two, and I like Modric was like out of his mind this World Cup, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Like after Messi, I think Modric might be second for me out of all of the players in this World Cup. So
in this World Cup.
Yeah, I like Croatia is a good team, and I think probably on the day they deserve to win. But if you have Morocco's full team and like before being beat by France, I think they would have had a fantastic chance against Croatia. I think, yeah, it's tough to play after that.
France showed why they were world champions. This is not the best French side, right? Like they have 5 of their starting players injured, but I think they did their homework. And if you notice, I feel like the difference between France, Spain, and like the Spain and Portugal is that France actually respected their opponents. They knew they could cause a threat. Like even in the press conferences, you could see it. Like Deschamps was taking these guys seriously. Like they did not take these guys lightly. And that's what I feel like ultimately led to their success. And also, they really studied Morocco. And like if you saw the first 5 minutes, like France knew they had to score first, right? Because in this World Cup, we hadn't seen Morocco get scored on first. Yeah. For me, it was like, I wish we did an episode before too, but I was like, whoever scores first wins the game. I feel like that's what was down to. Yeah. Because scoring in that first 4 minutes, that completely rattled Morocco for like the first 25 minutes. If you saw them, like they were just all over the place, man. and it was like a completely different team. To be honest with you, I was even scared that they would get scored out. The first 25 minutes, I was like, oh man, I hope this is not a blowout game, you know? But I feel like they did well at recovering from that. And then coming into the second half, I think Morocco dominated the second half, you know? They even had like possession like 60%. Like we saw a different side of Morocco, but like they weren't able to finish. That second goal just like, you know, just that, I feel like that's where like they kind of sealed the deal with France. But I feel like Morocco was the better team in the second half, but it shows you that like, you know, they are up there. They went toe to toe. They did not just lose. So like even the way they went out, I was like, okay, like if they had performed like they performed in the first half and gone out, like I would have been completely disappointed, to be honest with you, because like it would just be a sad ending. But despite the score, I feel like they held their head high, like they bounced back from it. And don't forget also, Morocco had a lot of injuries. Like their two starting center backs out. Mazraoui left back is out, you know. So, and the guys that came in, I was pretty impressed by them. And even Ait Allah as a guy that really stepped up, and that I kept on saying, like I feel like, you know, he also plays in Al Wydad with a Moroccan. You know, he's not in the European teams or whatever, but I feel like all these guys that came in, even Ashraf Dari, like El Yamik, like all of them, like these are not your like big players, but they stepped up to the occasion, and it shows that everybody is brought in and like ready to go. So, you know, I couldn't have asked more from Morocco at that point.
So moving on. So before we move on to the next teams, what are your final words? And let me ask you one question, or maybe it's kind of a split question. Morocco, like memorable run, but will this be just, you know, one just for the history books, or, you know, is this the beginning of like the new giant in Africa, the new big team, you know, on the continent?
I think all things being equal, Senegal is still the best team. On paper, at least on paper. I mean, they've had the manager for a long time, probably one of the longest serving national team coaches.
Yeah.
They just had their star player out, but just on paper, like they're absolutely stacked. They know each other really well. They have good chemistry. They don't have any you know, disagreements between the goalie and the coach like Cameroon does. Yeah, they have the synergy. It's just about and don't forget about Egypt as well. They might not have made the World Cup, but Egypt is still a really, really good team. I think that they're just as good as Morocco and Senegal. So
to be honest,
yeah, between the three of them for me, and then probably following behind our right behind our Ghana and Cameroon, which are both really good teams.
I think I agree with EU in terms of saying, like, for me, like number one team in Africa is still Senegal, and not to be honest, but like I have to put Morocco up there too, though, because like it's not an easy thing to come into the World Cup, and I feel like they're making their case, you know, as being like as contending for the top spot. But I feel like a good performance in the AFCON would solidify that position for them.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they already like came in with a bang, but now it's like, okay, we've seen 9 games, but it's about longevity, right? Aliou Cisse had already coached, you know, like under Aliou Cisse, they've done 2 World Cups, 1 AFCON. You know, the World Cup last time they went out was on fair play, unfortunate, but they performed well. They managed to win the AFCON. You know what I mean? And then they also managed to qualify round of 16. So like, you know, over the course of these, like, 7-8 years, like we've seen Senegal like build up to that. And Senegal also has, you know, young talent. They have the academies within their country to kind of funnel in those talents. So I feel like, and if we're talking about longevity, like I feel like Senegal has cemented that spot for me as like the best African team. And for Morocco also, like I feel like they've been performing well, but they didn't find like their, even if you see like the AFCON they played before, they were not bad, you know, they were one of the favorites for even from us, like when we did the episodes. But I feel like now they found Regragui, and hopefully they could build on it. So I just want to see how they build on it.
Yeah.
But other teams I want to mention is like, don't forget about Ivory Coast, Nigeria, especially Nigeria, Egypt. Like Egypt has a little bit to work on, but and Mali, man. Mali is a team that I feel like if they could convince to have a couple of players, from from the diaspora, man, imagine like a Dembele, a Konate, a Fofana on their team, they would have been set. Like these are players. Yeah. So,
By the way, one thing before we close, dude, the age profile of Morocco is scrumptious, bro. Like all of them are like 26s, 27s. I don't see any old players. I mean, if you talk about Mazraoui's 25, Hakimi's 24.
Yep.
Dude, they have So next
don't
World
forget
Cup
the
is gonna
youngins,
be
man.
they have a really good team.
Also, like you said, the age of it, and like if you've seen the young talents also that were in the Moroccan team, they might not necessarily have played a big part, but they experienced the World Cup. People. I'm talking about players like Abu Klal. He scored against Belgium, right? He came off the bench, 22 years old. Now he's only 22.
22.
You have
even
people
I think Ashraf Dari is 23.
Azuli,
Dude.
And you have people on the bench like also the QPR player and the Burnley player. What's their name? You have
Ilyas Chair or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, and you have what's his name? The Burnley player.
Burnley. Zaruri.
Zaruri, yeah, Zaruri.
Yeah.
Like, these players, if they come into and don't forget, Harit, man. He's been hurt and like he didn't come in, but like that's one of their like big profile player.
Marseille player, right?
Yeah. 25. So
nice.
In 4 years' time, he'll be like 29 in his prime, like his peak. So
yeah.
No. Well, on that point, I think
from that team.
Yeah, but special mention as well to Senegal did pretty well. Ghana had a great run. Tunisia as well, and even Cameroon for getting that big win against Brazil. But I think the show kind of goes away to Morocco. They did a great World Cup. Thank you to them for all the great memories. But yeah, boys, thank you again for joining us for another Afro Read. We'll be around this holiday season, and more to come throughout the season as we continue more off with European football, and even talking more about African football and big moves that are happening. The January transfer window is coming up, so we'll have to cover some big transfers of African players, especially post-World Cup. We expect to see some big names moving around the continent. So, yeah, for sure. So stay tuned, stay in touch. Anything else, boys, you want to say?
That's it.
I think, we
Unahi to Arsenal. Unahi
Right,
to Arsenal.
No, I'm Rabat to United, man. and we'll take Bono too, man.